The sky was burning on Veltrax 9. Flames rose from broken buildings. The ground shook as missiles fell from the sky. Commander Ryan ran through the smoke, his armor cracked and his gun almost empty. He had been fighting for 3 days with no rest. He had lost his squad in the last ambush. Now he was alone in enemy territory. And then he heard something strange, a voice soft and weak, calling for help. Ryan stopped. It wasn't human. The sound was almost like a song, full of pain. He followed the voice, stepping over broken metal and alien bodies. Behind a large rock he found her. A young alien girl. Her skin was a pale blue, glowing slightly in the darkness. Her eyes were large and filled with tears. She was bleeding from her side, barely conscious. She looked up at Ryan but didn't try to run. She was too weak. Ryan looked around. No one else was near. His orders were clear, no contact with local species. But something inside him didn't care. She was not a soldier, not a threat. She was just a girl. "Can you hear me?" Ryan asked, kneeling beside her. The girl blinked slowly and nodded. He gently lifted her into his arms. She was light and her body was cold. He knew she would die if left alone. He carried her across the battlefield, dodging fire and hiding. Behind ruins, finally, he found an old shelter, half buried under rock and sand. Inside, it was dark and quiet. He laid her down, gave her water, and used his medkit to stop the bleeding. She winced in pain but didn't speak. That night, Ryan sat by her side. He kept watch while she slept. The fire outside had slowed, but danger was still close. He didn't know why he was doing this, but something about her eyes made him stay. By morning, the girl opened her eyes fully. She looked better, stronger. She touched Ryan's hand and whispered, "Thank you." Before he could respond, he heard movement outside. He jumped to his feet and grabbed his weapon. But when the door opened, he saw them. Tall, silent aliens with armor made of bone and silver. They pointed strange weapons at Ryan but didn't fire then. One of them stepped forward, an older female with markings on her face. She looked at the girl and bowed deeply. "She is alive," the woman said in a deep voice. The other aliens lowered their weapons. Ryan was confused. "What is happening?" he asked. The woman looked at him, her eyes full of respect and sadness. "You have saved the life of the High Matriarch's daughter," she said. "According to our laws, you are now her bondkeeper." "What does that mean?" Ryan asked, heart beating fast. The woman stepped closer. "In our culture, if a male saves a female's life, he must complete the purity rite. She now belongs to you." By tradition, Ryan stepped back. "No," he said, "that's not right. I didn't save her for this." But the aliens didn't seem angry. They looked at him with deep honor, as if he was a hero. The girl, still weak, reached out and touched his arm. Her eyes were calm. She didn't look scared. She whispered something in her language, something soft and gentle. The older woman translated. "She says, I accept you." Ryan felt the weight of the moment. He didn't understand their culture. He didn't want to hurt anyone. But now he was part of something bigger outside. The sounds of war returned. Gunfire, explosions, human voices. His radio buzzed with a message from Earth Command. "Return to base immediately, or you will be marked as a deserter." He looked at the girl, at her people, at the war, and he realized he could never go back the same man, not after this, not after her. Ryan stood at the edge of the glowing canyon. Below him, deep inside the earth, strange lights danced in the dark. He could hear whispers carried by the wind, voices not human, not machine. He had been walking for hours, surrounded by silent alien guards, and now he was here, at the entrance of something sacred. The older woman from before, the tribe's high priestess, stepped beside him. She held a bowl filled with silver dust, glowing softly in the twilight. "This is where it begins," she said. "The binding ceremony." Ryan looked down the narrow stone path. "What happens if I refuse?" he asked quietly. The woman didn't answer right away. Instead, she scattered some of the glowing dust into the wind. It shimmered like stars, then vanished. "The bond has already started," she said at last. You saved her life, and her spirit now calls to yours. If you walk away, her soul will fracture. She will live, but only half a life. Ryan turned his face away. He hadn't asked for this. He hadn't expected to be called a hero or a husband. He was a soldier, trained to kill, not to love, and yet he could still feel the warmth of her hand on his, the way she had looked at him without fear. They walked down together. The path led them into a vast underground hall, a temple, carved into the mountain. Bioluminescent vines climbed the walls, casting blue and green light. At the center of the hall, Elia stood, dressed in ceremonial robes made of white silk and glowing thread. Her eyes were calm, her face unreadable. Ryan stepped forward, his heart beating like a drum. She didn't move. But when he looked into her eyes, he felt it again, that strange pull, a quiet connection that had nothing to do with words. "She is ready," said the priestess. "You must take the steps, speak the vow, and place your mark." Ryan didn't understand, but his feet began to move. He followed the rhythm of the drums that started in the background, slow and deep. The floor beneath him lit up with each step, symbols of light following his path. He stopped in front of Elia. Barely inches apart, she reached out and gently placed her hand on his chest. The moment she touched him, he felt something strange. Not pain, but memory. His own memories. His past began to flash before his eyes. He saw himself as a child, hiding during air raids. He saw his first kill in battle. He saw the moment he had given up hope. But he also saw her, Elia, smiling through pain, reaching out to him, accepting all of it. Ryan gasped and stepped back. "What was that?" he asked, breathing hard. Elia lowered her hand. The priestess spoke. "She now knows who you are. She saw your pain, your truth, your broken parts. And she still stands with you." Ryan looked at Elia again. She had tears in her eyes, but her face showed no fear, only peace. The priestess handed him a small crystal blade. "Place your mark on her palm," she said. "Only then will the bond be complete." Ryan froze. He couldn't do it. He couldn't harm her, not even a scratch. But before he could say no, Elia took his hand and guided the blade to her own palm. She pressed it gently, drawing a thin line of glowing blood. Then she took his hand and did the same. Their blood shimmered, not red, but silver. As the drops touched, the air around them pulsed with energy. Suddenly, Ryan felt everything. Her fear, her memories, her dreams. He saw the day her people were bond, the screams, the fire. He saw her watching the stars as a child, hoping to meet someone from another world. He realized he was that someone. The light around them grew brighter, then faded. The drums stopped and silence fell. The priestess spoke one last time. "The bond is sealed. 2 lives become 1 path. From this day, you are no longer strangers. You are echoes of the same soul." Ryan didn't know what to say. He looked at his hand, at hers, at the shared mark. He still didn't understand the rules, the future, or the reason. But one thing was clear. He was no longer just a soldier. He was part of something deeper, something powerful. Outside the temple, the wind had changed. The stars above Veltrex 9 shimmered brighter than before. But far away, in the darkness of space, something was watching. Something not happy with the bond that had just been formed. The stars above Veltrex 9 looked cold and distant. But beneath its surface, something much stranger was about to happen. Ryan sat alone in a dark chamber, the walls glowing with quiet light. His fingers touched the mark on his hand, the place where his blood had mixed with Alia's. It no longer hurt, but it pulsed like a second heartbeat. He had not seen Elia since the ceremony. She had been taken away by the priestesses. No one explained where or why, only that the test was coming. He didn't know what the test meant. He didn't ask, but the silence in the temple halls felt heavy, like something old was watching. Waiting. Then, the doors opened. The high priestess entered with slow, steady steps. Behind her were 2 figures carrying strange, silver stones. Ryan stood as they placed the stones in front of him. "This is the purity test," the priestess said. Her voice echoed like wind in a cave. It is not about the body, but the soul. Your mind, your truth, your pain. She must carry it now. Ryan frowned. Why? He asked. She already knows I'm not perfect. The priestess shook her head. She saw your memories, but to be truly bonded, she must feel them. The stones began to glow, one red, one blue. A sharp energy filled the air, not painful, but powerful. Sit, she commanded. Close your eyes, Ryan obeyed. He sat between the two glowing stones, the mark on his hand facing up. The priestess placed her hand on his forehead. He felt a cold touch. Then, nothing, darkness, silence. And then, a child hiding under a burned table, crying, gunshots outside, fire eating the walls. A young Ryan, screaming for his mother. His mother never answers. Another flash. Boot camp, pain, anger, fists. A drill sergeant screaming. Forget who you were. Then war blood, a friend dying in his arms, the sound of a final breath, the smell of burnt skin. Ryan wanted to scream, but he couldn't. He was trapped in his own past, and someone else was watching. He turned and saw her, Alia. She stood beside the broken memories, her hands shaking, her eyes full of tears. But she didn't run. She didn't turn away. She walked into the flames. She touched his pain, and she let it pass through her, as if it were her own. The images began to fade. The silence returned. Ryan opened his eyes, breathless, sweating. Elia stood in front of him now, not in memory, but in reality. She looked pale, but strong, tired, but steady. She reached out and touched his face gently, then whispered one word. Past. The priestess nodded. The bond is true, she said. Her heart holds your pain, and yours must now hold hers. Ryan didn't understand what that meant until it began again. He closed his eyes, and now her memories came. A garden of light, laughter, childhood peace, then fire. Soldiers shouting, glass breaking, her mother hiding her under a bed. Her mother taken away, never seen again. Elia crying silently as her world burned, her people hunted, her home destroyed. She was just a child, but she saw everything. Ryan's chest felt tight. It wasn't just her sadness, it was her silence. The years she had carried that pain alone. No one to speak to, no one to hold her. When the vision ended, he couldn't speak. He just held her hand, and she held his. No words were needed. The priestess stepped forward and placed 2 silver necklaces in their hands. Keep these, she said. They will protect your minds from overload. The bond is now balanced, but remember, she added, balance can break, suddenly. The doors opened. A younger guard ran in out of breath. Humans, he said. They found us. Ryan's heart dropped. Earth Command had sent a team, and they weren't coming for peace. They were coming for him. He looked at Elia. She nodded, already knowing what he would say. We run, he said, but we run together. As they moved toward the escape tunnels, Ryan felt something had changed inside him. He had come to this planet as a weapon. Now he was something else, something more, because of her. Asterisk, the tunnels were narrow, cold, and alive with the sound of alarms. Ryan ran ahead, Elia close behind him. Her bare feet made no noise, but his armored boots echoed with every step. Behind them, the walls shook. Earth soldiers had landed, and they were not here to talk. Elia touched the wall and closed her eyes. Their machines are close, she whispered. 6 humans, 2 drones. Ryan nodded. He had trained with those same squads. Now they were hunting him. They reached a chamber lit by crystals. There, the priestess waited with a bag of supplies. We cannot fight them here, she said. You must escape through the rift tunnel. Ryan looked confused. What's that? The priestess stepped aside and revealed a strange portal made of spinning light. It leads to the forgotten places of this world, she said. Places even your people cannot reach. But it will not stay open for long. Ryan looked at Elia. She was breathing hard, her mark glowing faintly. He knew they didn't have much time. But something in him still hesitated. What if I go through and Earth Command tracks me down anyway? He asked, what if I'm just dragging her into a bigger war? The priestess looked at him, her old eyes soft. Then you must ask yourself, she said, are you still only human? Those words followed Ryan as he stepped into the rift. The light wrapped around them like water. There was no sound, no ground, no sky, just a feeling, falling and rising at the same time. Then, silence. They landed in a forest of glowing trees, tall and silent. The sky above was black. But the stars were moving, not stars, giant creatures, floating like fish in space. Elia smiled for the first time. This is the outer garden, she said. My people believed it was only a myth. Ryan looked around, still holding his weapon. It's beautiful, he said. But it won't stop bullets. She touched his hand. No one can find us here for now, she said. But that doesn't mean we're safe. Later, they sat beside a warm pool of light. Elia dipped her fingers into the water. The mark on her hand shimmered. Ryan watched her silently. He had fought so many battles. But this one was different. He wasn't just protecting her. She was changing him. You're quiet, Elia said gently. Are you thinking about going back? Ryan shook his head. I'm thinking about who I really am, he replied. For so long I only followed orders. I thought loyalty meant doing what I was told, Elia nodded. But now? Ryan looked into the water. Now I'm starting to feel like I was made for something else. Not war, not killing. But this, he paused, this strange, impossible thing between us. Before she could reply, Ryan's communicator buzzed. He stared at it. Earth Command was calling. He hesitated, then answered. A cold voice filled the air. Commander Ryan, this is General Kars. You are to report immediately. You are considered a WOL and under alien influence. Return now or be terminated. Ryan didn't respond. He simply stared at the stars above. Then he spoke into the device. I found something here, he said. Something you wouldn't understand. This girl you call an alien, she has more honor than half our leaders. There was silence on the line. Then General Kars replied, you've made your choice. We're sending Reaper units. The communicator went dead. Elia looked at Ryan. He looked back, eyes sharp. They're not coming for a rescue, he said. They're coming to erase me. Elia stood and held out her hand. Then, let them come, she said. You're not alone anymore. And in that moment, something inside Ryan shifted, not fear, not anger, but clarity. He was no longer just a soldier. He was a man standing between two worlds, and for the first time, he knew where he belonged. The sky above the outer garden began to crack, not with thunder, but with machines. Black ships hovered in silence, blocking out the stars. Their engines didn't roar. They hummed like predators preparing to strike. Elia stood near the edge of the glowing forest, her eyes fixed on the sky. They've come, she whispered. Ryan stepped beside her, holding his pulse rifle. He already knew, Reaper units, Earth's deadliest response team. No warnings, no arrests, just clean removal. A signal clicked in Ryan's ear. A cold voice spoke. Commander Ryan, this is your last chance. Surrender and release the alien subject. You are violating Protocol 9. Section 3. Ryan didn't respond. Instead, he reached into his armor and pulled out the Earth Command tag from his neck. He stared at it for a long second, then dropped it to the ground and crushed it under his boot. Elia looked at him. Are you sure? She asked softly. Ryan nodded. If saving you means breaking the law, he said, then maybe the law was broken first. From the shadows of the forest, glowing eyes appeared. Reaper drones, silent, fast, deadly. They hovered just above the grass, scanning the area. Then came the soldiers. 6 of them, fully armored, faces hidden behind black masks, each one trained like Ryan. Each one ordered to kill. One stepped forward, his voice familiar. It was Captain Juno, Ryan's old team leader. Don't do this, Ryan, he said. You're not thinking straight. She's not human. Ryan raised his weapon. She's more human than half the people I've served under. Back off, Captain Juno sighed. You were one of the best. Now you're just a traitor. The drones moved first, lasers slicing through the trees. Ryan grabbed Elia and dived behind a rock. Energy blasts exploded around them, shaking the ground. He fired back, aiming with skill, disabling 2 drones, but there were too many. Elia closed her eyes and pressed her hands to the earth. The ground lit up beneath her. Vines and roots rose like snakes, wrapping around the legs of the soldiers. Ryan stared in shock. You can do that? I didn't know until now, she whispered. I feel stronger. When you're near. A soldier broke free and aimed at Elia. Ryan turned fast, pulled the trigger. The shot hit directly, dropping the man. There was no time to think. More drones swarmed. Ryan's gun ran out of charges. He threw it aside and picked up a blade. This was no longer war. This was survival. He fought like a ghost, silent, focused, deadly. But they kept coming. Then, Captain Juno charged. He tackled Ryan to the ground, blade against his throat. I didn't want to kill you, he hissed. You did this to yourself, Ryan struggled, but Juno was stronger. Until a flash of light exploded beside them. Elia stood there, her body glowing. Her eyes no longer calm, but filled with energy. She raised her hand, and a pulse of force knocked Juno away like a leaf in a storm. Ryan sat up, breathing hard. What was that? Elia looked at her hand in shock. I don't know, she said, but it came from you. More soldiers were waking. Ryan stood, chest heaving. Then he made a choice. He grabbed Juno's fallen gun, walked over to the Reaper Cum Link, and fired. The device exploded in sparks, cutting off all contact with Earth Command. It was done. There was no turning back. You just made us targets across the galaxy, Elia said quietly. Ryan looked at her. I'd rather be hunted for doing the right thing, he said. Then praised for following the wrong order. Silence followed. Then the priestess arrived, her eyes full of fear and awe. You have awakened the ancient bond, she said. The blood bond. What does that mean? Ryan asked. She looked at Elia. It means she is no longer only one of us. She's becoming something new. Ryan took Elia's hand. And in that moment, he felt it too. The connection, the strength, the danger. They were no longer just bonded. They were changing, and Earth wasn't ready for what they were becoming. Asterisk, the stars didn't shine the same anymore. Not after what they had done. Not after what they had become. Ryan sat in the cockpit of the stolen scout ship. His hands shook slightly as he activated the engines. The dashboard blinked red. Low fuel, no weapons, and half the nav systems were fried. But it was flying, and that was enough. Behind him, Elia stared out the viewing screen. Veltrex 9 was now just a quiet dot, spinning far behind them. She had tears in her eyes, but she didn't cry. Not anymore. We're safe, Ryan said quietly. For now, she nodded. Then whispered, something followed us. Ryan turned to her quickly. What do you mean? She placed her hand on the window. I can feel it, she said. Something old, something watching us from the dark. Ryan didn't reply. He didn't know how. He had seen her glow like a star. He had watched her tear apart the Reaper team without touching them. And now something was watching her. They traveled in silence through the debris fields of Sector V-19. The remains of forgotten battles floated like ghosts, old ships, broken satellites, frozen bodies, a graveyard of failed wars. This place, Elia whispered. My people called it the cradle of ends. Ryan glanced at her. We called it the no-return zone. As they passed through the wreckage, their ship's systems flickered. Strange signals began to appear. Old codes, dead languages, a warning, hidden inside static. But Nunzend, the Dili, Tolavoza, Luhya touched the console. Her mark glowed, and the static disappeared. What was that? Ryan asked. She looked at him, confused. I think it came from inside me. They landed on an abandoned moon station deep in the shadow zone. No signals, no light, no noise. The perfect hiding place. Inside, the walls were covered in ancient carvings, symbols from before human records, but Elia could read them. This language, she said slowly. It tells of a union between Starborn and Fireborn, a bond that was feared by both sides. Ryan stepped closer. What does that mean? She pointed to a symbol of two figures holding hands. Below them, the world was split in two. One side light, one side fire, and in between them, an explosion. It means us, she whispered. Our bond isn't just rare. It's forbidden. Suddenly, the air in the room turned cold. The lights flickered again. And a voice echoed, not through speakers, but inside their minds. You carry the echo, it said. You awaken what was locked away. You are not ready. Ryan raised his weapon, spinning in place. Who's there? He shouted. But there was no one. Elia fell to her knees, her body shaking. Her skin glowed too bright, her mark burning hot. She's in pain, Ryan said, rushing to her side. What do I do? A voice whispered again. The bond must choose its path. Suddenly, Elia screamed. But her voice was not her own. It was layered, her, and something ancient, something not of this world. She saw visions, a city in the sky burning, a child floating above a throne, a war between stars. And at the center, a human, and one of her kind, their bond tearing the galaxy apart. Ryan held her tightly. I'm here, he whispered. I'm not letting go. The light faded. Her body went still, and then slowly her eyes opened. She looked at Ryan, no longer confused. I saw the future, she said softly. I saw what we become. Ryan's voice trembled. Do we survive? Elia didn't answer right away. Then she said, yes, but not as we are. Our bond will grow, change, evolve. Some will fear it. Others will try to use it. And some will try to end us. Ryan nodded slowly. Then we keep running, until we're strong enough to stop running. She stood, her voice steady. No, we stop running now, behind them. The carvings on the walls lit up. The station responded to her voice, opening doors that had not moved in centuries, revealing a hidden room inside. Something pulsed, waiting. Elia stepped in. Her voice echoed with new power. This is not the end, she said. This is our beginning. The chamber pulsed like a living heart. Walls of crystal shimmered with memory and power. Elia stood in the center, her hands glowing, her eyes closed. She was listening, not to voices, but to time itself. Ryan watched from the doorway. He had seen her change over the past days, not just stronger, but deeper, like she had become something more than alien, more than human, something in between, something new. Above them, deep in orbit, Earth's fleet had arrived. Warships with names like Judgment, Shieldbreaker, and Mercy 3. They weren't here to talk. They were here to end the unknown. Elia turned to Ryan. They've come, she said. They're afraid, Ryan nodded. I would be too, he said. We've broken every rule they follow. We became what they never prepared for. The crystals began to show images, not just visions, choices. One showed Ryan and Elia returning to Earth, surrendering. Another showed them unleashing the power of the bond, destroying the fleet above. A third showed something stranger, a child standing between fire and light, holding both. What is this? Ryan asked. Elia placed her hand on the image. This is what we can create, she said, but only if we choose it. Suddenly, a transmission broke through the static. General Carr's voice returned, sharp and final. Commander Ryan, you have one chance. Turn over the alien, or we destroy the station. Ryan looked up at the ceiling. I'm not a commander anymore. He said, not yours. A pause, then Carr's replied, then you die with her. Outside, energy weapons charged, missile bays opened. But Elia was already moving. She walked to the heart of the chamber, a pulsing core of memory and ancient light. The crystal mark on her hand began to merge with the energy, and the station awakened, not with violence, but with voice. A voice older than history. A voice that spoke to every ship above them. Your weapons are known. it said. But your hearts are not. 2 souls have chosen truth. You may destroy them, but you will never unmake what has begun. For a moment, the fleet paused. The generals argued. The soldiers hesitated. Ryan stepped forward, standing beside Elia. If we die here, he said loudly, let it be known we died not as alien and human, but as one. Elia looked at him, tears in her glowing eyes. You would die for this? He nodded. I already did. But the energy didn't destroy them. It transformed. It rose around them like wings. Not to attack, but to send a signal, one that reached Earth and beyond. One that told of a bond that didn't obey fear or orders or war, but choice and trust, and something more powerful than both, unity. Hours passed. No missiles were fired. No ships landed. The fleet retreated. Ryan collapsed to the floor, exhausted. Elia caught him, holding him close. You chose us, she whispered. I didn't know if you would. He smiled weakly. I didn't know I could. Later, as the light of a new star rose beyond the station, they sat together in silence, and from the shadows of the chamber, a new image formed. A child with eyes like Elia and a heartbeat like Ryan's, standing between worlds, the future.